In May of 1941, the German Luftwaffe sent 350 bombers to obliterate the vital Scottish shipyards at Greenock. But as bombs rained down on a burning landscape, the German pilots didn't realize they had been completely tricked. They were actually bombing an uninhabited moorland. How did Scotland pull off this massive illusion? Using a top-secret network of controlled fires called Starfish decoys to build a fake city. In this video, we're going to see how early radar, giant barrage balloons, and brilliant deceptions defended mainland Scotland from relentless Axis attacks.
Welcome to Scotland's Hidden Histories, where Scotland's hidden stories come alive.
So today, we're going to talk about a part of World War II that honestly gets overlooked way too often. We're talking about the incredibly intense, super strategic, and just devastating air war that was fought over Scotland.
You know, when I say the Blitz, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most people, right, it's London. You picture St. Paul's Cathedral, smoke everywhere, those classic silhouettes of barrage balloons, and yeah, that's an absolutely iconic image of resilience. But here's the thing, it's not the whole story, not even close. In fact, it's not even where the story begins.
The very first major air raid of the war on Britain, it happened in Scotland. From day one, Scotland was on the front line, dealing with this just relentless threat from both the air and the sea.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get into why Scotland was such a big deal for the Germans. Then we'll look at that first major air raid. After that, we'll cover the brutal, grinding war in the Northeast, and then the absolute catastrophe that was Clydebank. We'll also check out the high-tech shield they used to fight back. And finally, we'll look at how this all left its mark.
So, the big question is, why Scotland? This was no accident. For the German High Command, Scotland was a massive strategic target. It was a piece of the puzzle they absolutely had to take off the board if they wanted to defeat Britain.
It all comes down to this term military planners used, the northern flank. Think about it. First, Germany takes over Norway. Suddenly, Scotland's northeast coast is the closest part of Britain to German air bases. Huge problem. And second, you've got the industry. The River Clyde, the Firth of Forth, these places were the absolute engine room of Britain's war machine. We're talking shipyards, factories, the whole shebang.
You know, while a lot of Britain was going through that weird period called the Phony War, things were very, very real in Scotland. This wasn't some little test run. This was a full-on, targeted strike, aimed right at the heart of the Royal Navy.
And the timing is just, wow. We're only 6 weeks into the war. It's October 16th, 1939, and suddenly, these elite German bombers are right there, over the Firth of Forth. I mean, can you imagine? You're just riding a train across the famous Forth Bridge, and all of a sudden these giant geysers of water from exploding bombs are erupting right next to you. That actually happened. And the response was immediate. Volunteer Spitfire pilots were in the air, scrambling to fight them off. And let me tell you, this was not a case of bad aim. The Luftwaffe's precision was frankly terrifying. They caused some serious damage, especially to the HMS Mohawk. You had splinters from bombs that almost hit, just tearing across the decks. The key thing to remember is that this attack, it drew first blood. Dozens of sailors were killed or wounded.
But out of that horror, you also get these stories of just incredible bravery. The commander of HMS Mohawk, a man named Richard Jolly, was hit and he was dying. But for over an hour, he refused any medical help. He stayed at his post and brought his battered ship and his crew back to port safely. He died not long after. An unbelievable act for which he was awarded the George Cross.
This one battle was just full of historical firsts. I mean, think about this. It was the very first combat victory for the legendary Spitfire, thanks to the pilots from the auxiliary squadrons. And the German airmen they shot down? When they were pulled out of the water, they became the first German prisoners of war captured on British soil, all in one afternoon.
So that raid on the Forth was like a short, sharp shock, but it was just the beginning. For the people in the northeast of Scotland, the war was about to become this long, drawn-out, grinding nightmare. Just a constant feeling of being on edge, of living in fear.
And the psychological pressure was just immense.
Take a small town like Peterhead. It got bombed 28 times. You know why? A lot of the time it was just a target of convenience. German bombers flying back to Norway would just dump whatever bombs they had left on the first town they saw. And then you have Aberdeen, which got the nickname the Siren City because it had 364 air raid warnings. Your entire life would be ruled by that wailing siren. It was this constant, nerve-shredding reminder that even if you were safe right now, the threat was always there. But of all the terrible things that happened in Scotland during the war, nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to what happened over 2 nights in March of 1941. The Clydebank Blitz. This wasn't just an attack. This was an attempt to completely wipe the industrial heart of the British Empire off the map.
So why Clydebank? Simple. It built the machines of war. You had the legendary John Brown shipyard there. The massive Singer sewing machine factory, it was now making munitions. You had critical engine works. For the Luftwaffe, if they could destroy Clydebank, they could cripple the Royal Navy.
The sheer scale of this attack, it's hard to even wrap your head around. Over just 2 nights, 439 German bombers descended on this one small, crowded town.
The human cost was just a catastrophe. 528 people in Clydebank were killed.
But maybe the most staggering number, the one that tells the real story of the devastation, is this. 35,000 people made homeless in a single weekend. Think about that. Out of 12,000 houses in a town, only 8 were still standing. The town was, for all intents and purposes, gone.
And behind these huge impersonal numbers are just countless individual tragedies. Those classic sandstone tenement buildings that were so much a part of industrial Scotland, they were death traps. They offered zero protection. They just crumbled. On Jellicoe Street, one single bomb hit one building and killed 31 people. 15 of them were from the same family. This wasn't just collateral damage. This was showing, in the most brutal way possible, that a whole way of building, a whole way of life, had failed.
But Scotland wasn't just a sitting duck. It fought back. And in the face of this absolute onslaught, they put up this incredibly sophisticated and, frankly, genius shield made of technology and good old-fashioned trickery.
The core of this defense was something called the Downing system. And this was revolutionary stuff. The world's first truly integrated air defense network. Here's how it worked. Step 1, giant radar towers on the coast detect the bombers coming in. Step 2, that info goes to an operations room where people plot their exact course on a huge map. And Step 3, Spitfires and other interceptors are scrambled to meet them head-on. It was this amazing combination of cutting-edge tech and human teamwork.
But fighting back wasn't just about dogfights in the sky. It was also about being clever. Britain built this whole network of what they called Starfish decoy sites. Basically, they were giant, elaborate fakes. They were designed to look like a city that was already burning to trick the bombers. And it worked. During a raid on Greenock, the decoy at a place called Loch Tom worked perfectly. The German bombers saw the fires, thought, that's our target, and dropped all their bombs on an empty hillside, saving who knows how many lives in the crucial shipyards.
So eventually, the bombing stopped, but the scars remained. And the impact of this Northern Blitz would go on to reshape pretty much everything about Scottish society. Its cities, its people, its whole identity for decades.
For one thing, it was the end of the line for the old tenement buildings. Planners saw how vulnerable they were and shifted to building new towns and suburbs, completely changing the way cities looked. But at the same time, the resilience was just incredible. I mean, weeks after Clydebank was basically flattened, the shipyards were almost back to full production. And it wasn't just a threat from the air. The war at sea, especially the sinking of the HMS Royal Oak at Scapa Flow by a U-boat, forced a total rethink of coastal defenses.
And you know, this history isn't really just history. As recently as 2016, a live German torpedo from one of those first raids back in 1939 was found in Scapa Flow. The Royal Navy had to come in and detonate it. It's just this powerful, tangible reminder of this forgotten war. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many more of these ghosts of the Blitz are still out there, just lying in wait beneath the waves?
Thanks for joining us on another journey into Scotland's hidden histories. If you enjoyed the adventure, hit like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.